It's revelations like these that make you so thankful for all of the times that you were going through the madness, the valley of the shadow of death. When you go through the awakening, it is no joke. And it is the most rewarding experience ever. Coming to the truth of the knowledge of what the Bible was teaching the entire time sets you free. This week I was studying the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve were tempted by that snake. Actually, Eve was tempted by the snake. Adam was tempted by Eve. God said, "If you eat the fruit of the tree, you shall surely die." And the snake, that represents Satan, said, "You're not going to die. You'll just have knowledge, just like God." And in that moment, Eve chose to eat the apple. She also offered it to Adam, and he said, "Okay, why not?" And yet neither of them died. Now, I just kind of chalked it up my entire life to, oh, God said they're going to die, but what he really meant is that he's going to punish them. But that's not what he said. He said, "You shall surely die." And if we're going to make assumptions about the Bible, then we can make assumptions all day long, come up with religions, and begin to live according to those truths, the ones that we made up. But what if God wasn't actually lying? And what if Satan wasn't lying either? What if there was a death, but it wasn't a physical death? It was a death of the perfection of humanity, and it was the freedom of choice. I now know, going through my awakening, that in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve died. Not their physical body, but they stepped into humanity and the depths of deception. In the moment, they were receiving thoughts that said, "Do this," even though God said, "Don't do this." They chose to put their actions on the thought that was contrary to God, the higher self. The way that looks like in science and quantum physics is our thoughts, they're not ours. We're receiving them. Because we're receiving them, when they come, we get to decide whether we act upon them or not. Adam and Eve were aligned with the mind of Christ. They were tuned into the higher mind without exception. But when the thought of temptation came, the lower frequency thought, the adversary, they had options in that moment to give action to that thought or to align with the higher mind. The moment that they chose to disobey or to act upon a thought contrary to the higher mind, then they descended into darkness. They tuned their thoughts away from what we call God, the higher mind. They tuned into the thoughts of the lower mind, that in which we call Satan or the adversary. The word Satan isn't a proper noun. It is a descriptive word. It is an adjective, and it means an adversary. It is a thought that is a low frequency thought. It is a thought that we receive as we experience this human experience. And it's optional. Even today, we have the option to tune into the mind of Christ or to allow the thoughts of the adversary to dictate our actions. And every time we choose the thoughts, the lower thoughts, and we act upon them, we tune away from the truth of who we are. It is a death that keeps on giving. See, a physical death only happens once, but an energetic or a spiritual death can happen over and over and over. In order to truly be born again, then you must align with the mind of Christ just as Jesus did. He came to save us by setting us free, by showing us an example of what it means to live as Christ lived. not simply to believe in him, but to also live exactly as he lived. When Adam and Eve were told, if you eat that fruit, you shall surely die, it wasn't some metaphor. It was a literal death of the mind of Christ, tuning away from the mind of Christ into the adversary, the carnal mind. And that death, it's worse than any physical death, because the physical death, that's it, it's over. But a spiritual death feels like hell, because that's exactly what it is.